if you've ever been playing an acoustic guitar and you dropped your pick inside the sound hole and just got super annoyed at trying to get it out, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. What's up, y'all? Woo! They tore up that road. Looks like they're gonna either extend the road out or maybe build a new road. I don't know what they're doing over here. That looks like the old road. Today, I want to talk about finding your voice. So if you've ever looked into anything about writers or anything related to people that play music or people that sing, people that write in general, even like authors talk about it, like people that write books, they talk about finding their voice, public speaking, finding your voice. For singers, finding your voice is when you stop mimicking the people that you are inspired by and instead start using your voice the way it sounds. A lot of times when somebody sings, they're mimicking whatever song. Like if they're listening to a country song and it's got the twang, they start mimicking the twang. If they're listening to R&B and it's got vibrato, they're going to mimic that vibrato. So a lot of times singers will mimic those things and not realize there's nuances within the person's voice that they're listening to or that they like, and that they mimic that, they get it to a T, they mimic that voice, and then it's like, oh, say it's a famous person's voice, like Chris Stapleton, and then suddenly they just sound like another Chris Stapleton, which is cool and that's good because it shows you have talent. But nobody wants to hear Chris Stapleton over and over and over doing songs that are not Chris Stapleton. And then on top of that, for the most part, nobody really cares to hear Chris Stapleton cover bands everywhere. Like 5, 10 of them. And then if you want to make a money from music, which is hard anyway, but you could probably make money from a cover band. But if you wanted to like be truly independent at making art in music, you're not just being like a Chris Stapleton tribute band just because you sound like him. The real trick is finding your voice and when you find your voice specific, how you sound and how you can make your voice work for anything, that's when you're able to do anything and cover anything. For instance, those are the people that when you hear them sing, you obviously know that they're not the singer of Journey or the singer of Queen or even the singer of Led Zeppelin, but they can sing it and they own it and make it sound like their voice on it instead of them sounding like they're just a cover band of that band trying to mimic that singer. That's the difference. They found their voice. Well, it goes the same for guitarists. When a guitarist can play a part on guitar in his band or even in another band, and you hear it and you can tell that it's that guitarist, whether you actually know that guitarist or not, or you're that familiar, you're going to be like, oh, this sounds like the guitarist that was playing on the song previously, and this guitar part here sounds like this guitarist from this other band, and then you look it up and it turns out it is the guitarist from that other band. He joined that band. And to me, a perfect, more modern example of that is in the early 2000s, there was a band named Chiodos. And in the band Chiodos, they had the singer, keyboard player, 2 guitarists, bassist, Well, the lead guitarist had like a unique sound to him specifically that was really, really interesting, kind of hard to recreate. And that guy actually ended up leaving the band. What ended up happening is there was a singer-guitarist in another band called The Fall of Troy. Well, that guy's band ended up breaking up. It was a three-piece. He sang and played guitar. He had a bassist and a drummer. When they broke up, the Chiodos guy hit him up because they're friends and was like, hey, could you come in and do a tour with me and substitute on lead guitar? He's like, you can maybe do some backup vocals, but really just play guitar in my band, even though he was a singer and guitarist. And he said sure, because he loves that band. And when he came in, he had some liberties to be able to do the lead guitar's part, but in his way. And so when you saw them play live at that time, if you were familiar with his band, The Fall of Troy, but you were watching Chiodos, he had a very signature sound that he would do, and he managed to incorporate that into their band, but still make it their band, but make it sound like he was playing in their band. And it was very, very interesting. I saw them live at this time, and I was blown away. I was like, that's a guitarist singing through a guitar. That's his voice. And then I realized, oh, this guy has truly found his voice on a guitar. He just happens to sing as well. But recently, that pedal show, there's an episode they had with Warren Haynes, and he talks about his time in the Allman Brothers, and he was the slide lead guitarist. He was talking about how he played the guitar and he just kind of made it sing because that was his voice. On top of that, he's also an amazing singer, but he looked at them at singing and guitar playing as two separate instruments, and he combined them together to make his singing voice, but they were also separate. If his only job in a band was to play guitar, then he was going to make sure that his guitar playing was him singing when he's playing leads, when he's improvising, when he's doing riffs. It sounds like him singing. And that was his approach at playing, and even his approach at creating a tone on the guitar. I just thought that was really cool that he talked about that, because I feel like I'm constantly looking for my voice on a guitar. I, for the most part, am not a singer. I can harmonize, not that well, but in a pinch, if need be, I've done it. I've done some bands where I had a gig and I had to learn the backing vocal parts to be able to do them on bass and guitar, and I did. It was fine. But I'm not really like a lead singer. You don't want me up there like actually leading the song. Another person that's known for having their tone and their sound and their instrument be their voice is Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He has such a unique and interesting bass tone that it's known. When you hear the way that he plays slap and funk, you know it's him. You know that that's him playing. It's weird because he was asked to play bass in another band when they were creating their debut album. He played on an album for a band called the Mars Volta, and their album was called The Loust and the Comatorium. It was their debut album. They had an EP before that, but then they had created that album, but they had no bass player, they didn't have a drummer, they didn't have a keyboard player, they didn't have another guitarist. It was really just a singer who happened to play drums and a guitarist, and they wrote all the music themselves, and then they found some session musicians to record on the album. Well, they got Flea, and Flea played on that, and it sounds like Flea playing on that, but it also sounds like that band. And it's even more interesting when you think of the fact that that band didn't have a bassist. So not only did he have to create a bass tone and a bass style for another band so that they would have a signature sound, but he also had to integrate his bass playing into that album to make it sound like him creating a new style. That is very impressive, very difficult to do. Another example I would think of in modern times is there is a bassist that has played in hardcore bands in the 90s and in the early 2000s, and I believe he played in Snot, and he played in another hardcore band, I can't remember the name, but he also played in a band called Glassjaw. And essentially what he did is he brought R&B style bass, almost like Sade, into a hardcore band. Like, he's got a lot of R&B chops where he's throwing those in, but it's heavy music. So it gives it this distinctive groove and feel on the bass, even though the guitars are being more heavy, like chugging, like metal chugging almost, and there's a lot of like post-hardcore ambient lead tones and things like that. But the bass is just driving at times when it needs to drive, but it's highly melodic throughout most parts because the bass is carrying the melody and it's following the groove and feel of the drums. Very interesting band if you care to check it out. His name was Manny Carrero. I'm highly influenced off of him. I love his bass playing. He came to Austin to play at the Mohawk, and I got so excited to see him. Got to meet him backstage. Super cool guy, super chill. Really, really is into like, he's a dedicated bass player. He's not a guitarist playing a bass. That dude is a bass player for sure. These people have found their voice. And it's interesting when you think about finding your voice. It's something that I strive to do in every aspect of things that I do. I strive to find my voice in playing guitar. I strive to find my voice in writing songs. I strive to find my voice in playing drums. I strive to find my voice in what I'm doing now, making these videos. Making these videos was always about me finding my voice and not really understanding like how I would come across trying to talk to someone on a motorcycle while riding, but also not just talking to them while riding, but the other aspect of I didn't have a dedicated audience or a mission for it. And then I had kids, and then I realized like my kids can listen to me talk, and that right there gave me a reason to have my voice, and then gave me a mission to talk about things for them, which is what I do for the most part. And really it's for anybody that's interested in having just a guy ride a motorcycle and talk about life and things he's learned and lessons that he thinks about. I don't know if other people ride a motorcycle and necessarily think all the time. I don't have a fairing, I don't have a Bluetooth speaker, I don't do in-ears or nothing. I just ride and talk. That's literally what I do, and I used to just ride and think, now I talk about what I'm thinking about. But finding your voice, if you dedicate the time to actually think about what you want to talk about, research into what you're doing, you can find your voice in anything. If you're a person that enjoys baking cakes and you really do research everything you can about it and put all of your work into it, and you're reading about it and watching videos and experimenting while at home and making cakes and icing, and you know all the ins and outs and all the temperatures and all that, you're finding your voice at baking. Find your voice in something. I feel like this is a dad advice, and it's not a dad advice. I'm just riffing today, but I guess maybe the overarching idea of today's talk is it's dad advice, but that was not the intention. I just have a day where it's inexplicably hot. It's like 100 degrees today, and it's really been on my mind about what I'm doing. By the way, if you're new to the channel, thank you for coming here. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. I really appreciate it. One other thing I want to talk about real quick is I had, in my last video, talked about putting a link to t-shirts in there. I had a problem in creating that link and creating the t-shirts. They didn't come out to the quality I would like. So I'm having to work on that and get it redone, and I have that going on in the background. That's being worked on at the moment, and probably on this episode, if not by the next one, I will have it up, and I will retroactively go back and add that link in. So if anybody's interested in supporting me in a different way other than just watching, and you want to buy a shirt and wear it, I'm pretty much deciding that for the most part I'm trying to only make shirts that I would ride on a motorcycle. So I'm specifically looking for the kinds of shirts I like to wear when I ride on a daily basis. So, doesn't mean you can't, wear it in any other reason in life, but it does help if it's, you ride a motorcycle. It'll probably be comfy since that's what I do. Or if you play rock music, probably be comfy for that too. Alright guys, this is a short one. Remember, pull hard, play hard. I can't go fast. I'm behind traffic.